Now, you're very welcome back to Lunchtime Live. It is that time on a Tuesday afternoon when we have our relationship slot. And today, David Kavanagh, who is in with us, is going to talk to me about criticism. Because does your partner criticise you, or are you very critical of your partner? Do you criticise each other? And is that okay, or is that actually harmful? And are these things, in fact, damaging the core of what a relationship should be? David, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Is criticism are some people just genuinely quite critical? Is that their personality, and they kind of go with your personality then?
They can be, but that's something that people can change. I don't think anybody's born critical. It's not in our genetic makeup at all. So you can choose to be critical of your partner, or you can choose to be nice and complimentary and see the good in them. What we find in the therapy world, I think, is that where partners are critical of the person they're married to or in a relationship with, it doesn't tend to lend itself to harmony in the relationship, funnily enough, because people just feel diminished. Their self-esteem kind of drops off the radar. It's not a good thing to be criticising your partner. If it's a genuine complaint, which is like, you're having a difficulty with some aspect of your partner's behaviour, and you point that out, and that's one thing. But a criticism is more about their personality and their value system. So
is the difference between a complaint and a criticism, I say, oh, I was awake all last night worrying because I thought you'd text me when you got home, and I was really worried about you, and I didn't get any sleep. It'd be great if you'd let me know when you're home because I worry. Or is it, you selfish git, you never tell me where you are, I'm always awake because you are so blah blah blah? Is that the difference?
That's a big difference. So the first one, if I heard that, if my partner said that to me, I'd be like, you got me, you're right, I should have probably texted you, it won't happen again. I don't feel diminished. I feel, you've been respectful to me. Whereas a criticism, it takes me apart, doesn't it? It kind of makes me out to be
so it says
selfish.
you are the problem rather than your action. Is there a difference between attacking the person and attacking the action?
You just hit the nail on the head. So it's the person versus the actions.
Okay, so first of all, if you were on the receiving end of criticism non-stop, you do this, you do that, you're always out, you never help, I don't know what the things would be. If you're on the receiving end of that, what should you do?
Well, I think it's very important that you set boundaries very quickly in the relationship for what the problem is and how you feel you're being treated. Because if it's left unchecked, then what can happen is it's toxic, first of all. So it destroys your relationship. But more than that, it can cause, I think it can lead people to be depressed or have anxiety because you're not getting any support in the relationship potentially, and you're just being attacked at all sides. And if you're working in a stressful environment and you come back to your relationship, which is supposed to be a safe space, and then you find you're being attacked. So, where do you go then? So
if you're on the receiving end, put down a marker, put down a boundary. This is unacceptable. Just because I was late once is not a reason to tell me I'm the worst person in the world. That's a nonsense. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what if you are listening to this now and you hear yourself going, you always do this, you never do that, you're such a this, you're such a that. And you kind of go, God, I'm actually quite critical. I'm really quite hard on people or on my partner. What should you do if you recognise this in yourself?
I think it's probably time to reevaluate what you're hoping to achieve from the communications that you engage in it with your partner. What am I trying to do here? Am I trying to make them feel bad, or am I trying to make them change their behaviours? Because if I'm trying to make them change their behaviours, which probably is what you're really trying to do, then complimenting somebody on the things that they've done well is probably a far better way to highlight to them how they can be better in your, how they can do more things that you enjoy in the relationship. I really loved the way you were considerate last week, and I know you didn't text me last night, and that kind of perturbed me a little bit. But at the same time, last week you were very, very good. Now somebody isn't diminished. They're actually praised to a certain extent.
So praise good behaviour.
I think praise good behaviour.
Okay. Lots of people texting. Someone says relationships require work. We need to accept each other's faults within reason and concentrate on positive characteristics of our partner. Somebody else says, James says, actually on Twitter, he says, I grew up with a mum. This is not to do with romantic relationships, but a mother who never stopped criticising me no matter what my achievements were. I was never good enough. It ruined my self-confidence and had a negative impact on my relationships. It can do that, can't it?
It really does.
Criticism can make you feel worthless.
Completely. It undermines diminished. The core of your being, and it's really damaging. And it's really dangerous. And when as couples therapists we hear it in the room, it's a massive flag for us.
If you're in a relationship like that, and let's go back to being on the receiving end because it's easier to deal with in a way. If you're on the receiving end of constant negativity, somebody doesn't praise your achievements or doesn't support your successes and kind of goes, you're always not good enough, you're always inadequate, you're never enough. Is that fixable, or should you walk?
It depends on your circumstances. Depends on if you have a mortgage and you have kids. But for a lot of people, if you think, because the question is, will my partner change? If you think your partner's never going to change, what are the long-term consequences of staying in that relationship? And for many people, it's a life of misery.
Oh, Lord. But look, thank you for that as ever. That's David Kavanagh, who will be back, of course, next Tuesday. Someone says, Ciara, if I never criticised my husband, how would I get him to do anything? I hear you. I think we all hear you. But nonetheless, try and soften the blow in some way by saying, you know, you never do anything, but you have a lovely beard or something like that. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm talking about. Lynn on Twitter says, just with regard to conscientious objection, I think it's worth reading out. She says, so Ciara, the doctor you spoke to was happy to opt out, but not to be listed as opting out. I spoke to a girl when I was canvassing for repeal of the 8th who went for the pill at 18, and her doctor ran her out of the surgery because they didn't prescribe it. She was embarrassed and she was mortified by him. 3 years later, she had a medical abortion and didn't seek care when she became ill until too late and was hospitalised. She's 22. It happened in the past 4 years. That GP is still practicing. He had no problem taking €50, but the girl was humiliated. Where was her care? I agree with you, Lynn. Thank you for that indeed. Today's winner of the fantastic trip to where are we off to today? Mount Juliet. Fantastic is Shane Hickey from Cork. Of course, you bob for apples. Well done. And I'm afraid that is all we have time for today on Lunchtime Live. We always run out of time far too quickly. It flies by.